Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tales from the Inside. And now, would you please welcome our special guest host, Kendra Dawsey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tales from the Inside, Company Studios special storytelling show. So I am Kendra Dawsey. I'm obviously inside. Not only do we have an airborne pandemic, but also it's starting to get cold. So I'm like, I just want to be inside all the time now. The theme for this today's storytelling session is ungratefulness, because to be honest, I'm tired of being thankful for shit, you know? Like, I know Thanksgiving is coming up. We're all supposed to be thankful. But, like, when I think about this year, it's like, what do I have to be thankful? Like, okay, obviously I am thankful that I'm, like, in relatively good health and all of that. But it's like it's like I work to do those things. Like, am I thankful that I, like, wear a mask? Like, is that how I should be interpreting my thankfulness? I don't know. I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon in general. I've never really been that into the holidays. Like, I love food. My favorite part of Thanksgiving is the turkey. I know people are complaining about turkey being dry as hell. If you have good turkey, it's moist, okay? And it tastes delicious. So, like, sorry to just say, when you say turkey is dry, just actually say, like, oh, my mom can't cook. That's what you should really say. Anyway, like, I've never been a huge fan of the holidays, and part of it is I'm not great at gift giving, and people don't often give me gifts I like. I think that's an issue. When I was younger, I was always stressed out by, like, Christmas, because, like, one, you have to find your parents gifts, and, like, when you're 15, your parents, like, have way more money than you do. And two, my mom for so long used Christmas as an excuse to buy me a ton of clothes that she felt that I would need for the next year, right? So it wasn't like, oh, I really like this outfit, could you please get it for me? It's like my mom would just, like, give me 12 turtlenecks, and I freaking hate turtlenecks. Like, you just be like, okay, here's what you're going to wear for the next 2 years until you grow more, and just display 20 turtlenecks, you know. That was my Christmas. There was one Christmas, and this was by the time I was, like, in college and kind of developed my own sense of style, like, you know, started dressing like a permanent stage tech, you know, like, just all black, mismatching blacks, like hoodies, like, very, like, you know, that was my style in college. And I went home for Christmas when it was okay to do that. And my mom was like, hey, I got you a Christmas present. And I opened the Christmas present, and she got me a turtleneck dress, turtleneck sweater dress that was Barbie pink, literally like Barbie's nipples pink.
No.
The pink, like the most pastel, like my least favorite type of pink. Like, I could rock some pinks. I'm more of a hot pink, but this was like Barbie nipple pink, right? And I look at it, and I look at her, and I was just kind of like, why did you get me this? Like, and I didn't mean to be that mean about it, but it was just so obviously not my sense of style. And I was like, so why did you get me this? Like, I don't really like this at all. Not only was it like a turtleneck sweater dress, but also the sweater material was like that itchy sweater material, you know? Like, it was really scratchy. It was probably like part rabbit, and the rabbit did not deserve to die to be part of a itchy, ugly ass sweater dress. So I asked my mom, why did you get me this? And she was like, oh, you know, I don't know what I was thinking. When you were younger, you would just wear whatever I gave you. Like, and I was like, okay, when was the last time I wore something this color? And she was like, oh, maybe when you were like 2 or 3 years old. And I was like, oh, you mean when I could not dress myself? You mean when I probably would not have chosen to wear clothes if I had a choice, if I was young? You mean when I was too young to even understand that nudity was frowned upon in high society? You mean when I was too young to even, like, know words for things. You know, I was like speaking in like partial sentences and being like, mama, baba, you know, like that's when I liked this color. And she was like, okay, I'll take it back. After I chewed her out for it for quite some time. So now my mom does not get me anything that is pink and or a turtleneck, thank God. But yeah, I get stressed out by gift giving. I feel like my parents are hard to shop for. My dad is just like a chill bro who like just wants to watch some like basketball and like listen to some smooth jazz, right? Like my dad like has most of his needs met. Like I've gotten him a nose trimmer like 5 times, you know. He still has nose hair, but I feel like he's kind of getting tired of that. So I'm thinking, okay, I probably shouldn't get him that anymore. And then my mom is like almost like too polished. She has like 20 different candles and 20 different bath smells. She has like 20 different bath bombs. Like she's very like luxurious and all of that things. But I'm like, okay, if I get you your 21st candle, like how do I know that you don't have this scent? How do I know that you don't have like whiskey and like bubble bath candle scent already? Or like, I don't know, like Cuban oregano and tobacco, or like, you know, like garage smell. That's my favorite smell, which probably means I like am missing some brain cells, but it's fine. I said brain smells instead of brain cells. My brain cells gone.
It should be
I did not mean to like garage smell, but I smelled it and I was like, this is it. Yeah, holidays do stress me out. And like Thanksgiving, we're supposed to be like thankful for a lot of things. I am thankful that like I have a job and like, you know, especially in times like these where like everything sucks. But like I'm also when I think of times like these, I also think of anger. I feel like anger is a pretty useful emotion. Like, okay, let's be grateful for some of the things we do have, but let's be mad as hell at the people who made some like dumb fuck decisions, right? Like, let's be mad as hell at Elon Musk for being like, coronavirus is gonna be gone by April. What the fuck now, Elon Musk? Like, what, you're gonna shoot another goddamn car into space? Like, do something useful with your life, you know? Like, let's be mad as hell at like that senator that like sold a lot of stocks when she heard that coronavirus was happening. Let's be mad. Like, in fact, you know what? I want to be mad at Stop and Shop for not only not giving their workers hazard pay for throughout this entire pandemic, but also they ran out of pecans at the store. I was gonna make something with pecans tomorrow. You know, it's fucking Thanksgiving. You couldn't order some more pecans? Like, what the fuck, dude? So that is my personal feelings. Yeah, I feel like anger and also being like, oh, this sucks. Like, let me make this change is also valid emotions. And also being like, yeah, I'm thankful for me because I put myself in this position. If you did put yourself in this position, it's also a good emotion. You know, if you're like a white man who is like the third in his family of being actors, you probably didn't put yourself in that position, but like you could be thankful for things anyway. If you are a person who did work really hard to be where you're at, I also think that's good. So you could thank yourself. But yeah, the entire theme of the show is ungratefulness because, like, I don't know, the holidays are just like a bunch of bullshit. You're with your family and you're like, I haven't talked to this motherfucker in years, like this estranged uncle or this weird aunt or like this cousin that always smells, but I need to pretend to like them because that's supposed to be the point of the season. And like, sometimes I'm just tired of the bullshit. Like, luckily, like, people aren't really traveling this year, so I don't have to see my family. I'll call the ones I like, but yeah, it's just fake, and let's not be fake tonight. So let's like talk about things that we're not grateful for, and let's be ungrateful sons of bitches. So we have lots of awesome comedians from Boston and beyond coming up. First comedian coming up, she writes for Reductress. She does poetry. She has been a lesbian vampire in a film. She is multifaceted, multi-talented, and she is going to tell us a beautiful story. Please give it up for Chloe Cunha.
Hello. Yes, all those things are true. Yeah, Yeah, it's funny. My story, I feel like, has a mixture of ungratefulness with gratefulness. So hopefully the ungratefulness will sustain us. So here we go. Essentially, so this occurred. So the whole story happened first, the first moment of just to set the scene. I was visiting some friends in this house. Basically, what it was is a friend of mine from college had a nice job, and he had bought this really dumpy fixer-upper house, and like had all of his friends live there for like really low rent, just so he could pay the mortgage, basically. And so it's kind of a party house, right up in Somerville. And I've told stories that have set place in this house before. Speaking of lesbian vampires, well, I guess that's one story I've told before, not this story. But I did like the Ugly Sal story, for those familiar, happened also in this house. So what do you know? But I was hanging out with these people, and because it's kind of a party house, there's a lot of like young, grungy people living together. Like half of them were in a band together, and they had like DIY music shows in the basement. And one of the guys that lived there, I honestly can't remember his name right now, but let's just call him Derek, because every Derek that I've met except for one has been terrible. And the one that wasn't terrible did really enjoy flavored Jewel pods. So, just to give an idea of what a Derek usually gives you. So Derek, I for some reason I had stopped by in his room. We weren't really friends, but I noticed he had this really nice wallet, like up on a drawer somewhere, and I was kind of curious, like, wow, what is that? That looks really nice. I was like, oh yeah, that wallet. Like, I found this wallet, and I was like, whoa. And he was like, yeah, you want to look at it? Go ahead. And I was like, okay. So I'm kind of like looking at this wallet. It was like a Louis Vuitton. I don't know if I said that right. It was a Louis Vuitton wallet, very fancy. And the only thing in it were 2 photos. And he starts to tell me this story about how he worked at some kind of high-end-ish fancy fish market on the Boston market or something like that. And some customer had accidentally dropped a wallet while there. And I guess for a while they kind of debated what to do about it, and the customer never came back. So they're like, oh, I don't know what to do about it. And he kind of was like, well, I tried to figure out how to get it back to him. And what was in the wallet, other than some money and some credit cards and stuff, was these photos, of course, and work visa. So I'm hearing this story and I'm like, oh man, this must have been a bad day for this person who's clearly not a citizen and all of a sudden didn't have their work visa. And I'm hearing this story, and all of a sudden I realize I recognize some of the people in the photo. So one photo was an old-timey picture of a woman. It must have been like maybe 50s, 60s or something like that. You could tell it's an older photo. And the other was more recent, and there were 2 children in it. And at the time, I worked at the French American School in Cambridge. I was a teaching assistant there. And as I'm looking at this picture and I look at the kids, I'm like, why do these kids look familiar? And then I was like, oh my God, these kids go to the school. And I realized all of a sudden I put 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, I could get this wallet back to the person. Like, I actually know a way to return this wallet. But Derek wasn't finished with his story. So I'm like, wait a minute, I know these kids. What is happening? I think I know how to get these stories back. He's like, oh, okay. And he starts giving more details. And he says, well, yes, the work visa like had France written in it. So I was like, I'm going to call the French consulate. And so he calls the French consulate, and he's like, I found this wallet. And they're like, okay, can you give it to us? And he's like, well, if I give you the wallet, are you going to tell me if the guy got it back? And they're like, well, they're like privacy concerns. So if you give it to us, no, we're just going to get it back to him and that'll be that. We don't want to contact this random person for you. Like, sorry, there's a privacy concern there. And he's like, well, okay, but how do I know if you're going to give the wallet back? And they were like, we promise we'll get it back to him. And he's like, okay. And they're like, so are you going to bring it in? He's like, what do I want to bring it in? And they're like, well, can you come in on this day and bring it in? And he's like, I don't know. You're not going to tell me I'm going to bring it back. And basically, he didn't give the wallet back because he felt that they were ungrateful that he had found it. He was like, man, these people, they wanted me to come in on my day off. And then they wouldn't even like give me a call when the guy got it. I'm like, so you're just not gonna get it back to him instead? And all this shit, when he could have just given it to the consulate, they would have gotten it back to him. And I'm thinking, this is a guy, so there are a couple intersections here, right? Derek is a guy who's kind of like, you know, I don't know, he's a 20-something grungy looking white guy who, you know, he doesn't have a great, he's in a service job, he's like a bass player, a drum player, I don't know, whatever. And it's clear that this guy whose wallet he dropped was, you know, doing better financially. But he was also an immigrant. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I know stories of how people have had, this was Obama even, but I knew that like it was hard sometimes, like getting a visa, a work visa is really hard. And I had known that people had that shit rejected. And I'm sitting there going like, this man has probably had a nightmare of a time and you have no idea what you've subjected him to. And I was like, what? So you just didn't do it because you didn't want to be bothered on your day off? He was like, well, And long story short, I'm like, okay, can I get this wallet back to this man so he can at least have these two pictures? Because the money, of course, they divided amongst themselves. And I know, oh well, whatever, praxis. And it's like, okay. So thankfully I saw this picture. I was able to talk to my mom. And now here's where it got really complicated. Because in order for me to return the wallet, I had to kind of be like, so this is weird, but this dirtbag I know didn't want to bother to get it back to your husband. So I didn't say that. Instead, I was like, somebody I know found this wallet. The money was already missing. Basically, I recognized the kids, and here's where the story gets grateful. I guess there's a nice ending. I don't know, it hasn't been particularly funny. I'm sorry, guys. Whoops. I hope Derek's aloofness was amusing. But when my mom managed to get it back to the wife of the guy, she was like, oh, like, you have no idea, like, how much this means to us. Like, he has had a horrible, like, past couple months. Like, losing this was really difficult, and his mom has passed away, and there's a picture of his mom, and he was really sad not to have that picture. And obviously the picture of the kids too was nice, but like, he was really sad to have lost that photo of his mother who had died. So thank you so much for returning this. And I was sitting there like, oh man, that's nice. I'm really glad we could at least do this nice thing for this person. And in the back of my head, at the same time, I'm like, man, if I hadn't happened to serendipitously work at a school and have a really good facial recognition and recognize these kids who, by the way, I didn't really have a relationship with them. Sometimes I did morning duty where all the children came in and I happened to vaguely recognize their faces. If I hadn't had this moment, this poor guy would have just never gotten his pictures back because fucking Derek didn't want to be bothered on his day off. Anyway, that was my long rant about how Derek was feeling that the French consulate was ungrateful. I'm sorry, I feel like I went too long. But that's it.
Thank you so much, Chloe. That was great, honestly.
Thank you.
I think we could all say that we're not grateful for Derek, whoever the
No, I'm not. It really lowered. I didn't have a high esteem of Derek in the first place, but it really lowered my esteem. I was like, man,
Yeah.
you know, you just fucked over this dude so hard. Like,
Yeah. And I
Oh,
think
God.
you're right. I don't know if there has been a good Derek. Like, if there is one, let me know. If there's a Derek watching and you think you are good, list 5 good things you've done, either on Facebook or on the Comedy Studio website, and prove your goodness as a
yeah,
Derek.
let's chime
But,
in.
like,
Derek.
yeah, I feel like that's on par. If you name your kid Derek, they're gonna take someone's wallet and then not give it back to them because a French consulate was like not appreciative enough.
I'm just glad he didn't throw away the photos. He was like,
Dang.
I thought about throwing away the photos, but then it felt weird because I didn't know the people in the photos. I'm like,
Yeah,
why
don't
didn't
throw
you
away photos. Weirdo. Whatever. Fuck Derek.
Oh,
Anyway, here is a man coming up who is not named Derek. He is excellent. He performs all over New York. And he also recently started writing for Jump Kick. Please give it up for Frankie Becerra.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to Kendra and the Comedy Studio for having me tonight. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you to all those watching also for being here tonight. As Kendra said, my name is Frankie, and I'm sure that we can all agree that this year has given us plenty to be ungrateful for. I don't know if you guys have turned on a TV or looked out a window, but shit's not great right now. I know personally for me, I had a few not so great things happen. Last month I got ghosted on my birthday, so that was a shitty thing. Over the summer, I had to quit a job that I had just started because the boss was just trying to get away with straight up not paying me. And even worse, like 50 people I know started podcasts this year. So we really had a hard time. But I wanted to tell a story that would kind of fit in to the holiday spirit a little bit more. So this is a story about a Friendsgiving dinner that I went to that didn't really go the way that I had hoped it would. You know, I'm not going to act like I'm not reading this. I'm reading this.
That's valid.
I think I want to start by saying how much I love the practice and the idea of the Friendsgiving dinner. You know, a nice little Thanksgiving where you can celebrate with your chosen family, tell them how much you love them, and it's got a cute little name to it. We don't just call it a Thanksgiving with friends. We portmanteaued that shit together and called it a Friendsgiving. So I love that. I'm all for it. But I think it's important to know just how thankful everyone at the dinner really is, just to kind of make sure you're on the same level of love for one another. So for the past couple of years, obviously not this year, I've been having a Friendsgiving dinner with a group of people that I used to call my main group of friends. We are still all friends. I just also have other friends now, and I used to not. So, you know, growth. But we all knew each other because we all used to work at the same summer camp for a number of years. And some of us even met while we were campers at the summer camp. But there was a number of years where me and all these friends, we all worked together. And so we stayed in touch since then. None of us work at the camp anymore. You know, some of us are teachers. Some of us work for companies in the city. Some of us delivered pizza for 5 hours tonight and came straight to do a Zoom comedy show. So basically, we're all killing it, is what I'm trying to say. The thing that matters is that we still make time for each other. We still try to see each other as often as we can, and we still love each other. So every year for Friendsgiving, we'd go to one of our friends' house. Let's call him Jordan. And everyone would make something. Everyone would bring alcoholic beverages. We would eat, drink, be merry. It's a fun time. And I know that I'm always so happy to see my friends, especially when we're all together under one roof at the same time. I imagine they're happy to see me too, and not just because I look great in an autumnal sweater. Actually, you know what? Hold on, I'll show you.
Ooh, costume change.
Oh my God, this is unprecedented. There's Tales from the Inside. We're gonna see inside Frankie's closet. Oh my God.
Oh yes.
Come on.
Cute.
Nice.
I look like if Dijon Mustard was in an improv troupe. Like, come on. But anyway, so this story takes place at 2 years ago's Friendsgiving, the year of our Lord 2018, I was what experts would call not in a great place. I had just left a job like a month earlier that actually two people that were going to be at the Friendsgiving had helped me get. So that's chill and cool for everyone involved. I had very little social life. I wasn't going out a lot. And like I said, these people that I was seeing tonight they're really my only friends, and I hadn't seen them in a while. So I was very thrilled to just kind of be surrounded by the people that I loved, because I was just in like a real funk of like, what am I doing with my life? Which in a cool little way has lasted to this very moment. But that's a story for a different Zoom show, if you ask me. So I say this to make it known that like I was going in there just so happy to be with these people, so like thrilled. There was not a single person that I saw that I wasn't like just showered in love for and just so happy to be with. So now we're at the point in the dinner where we've been there for a while, and we're sitting around the table to start eating. And right before we sat down to eat, one of my friends, we'll call her Shannon, she said, hey, before we sit down to eat, I think it would be nice if we just took a second and had like a sincere, real moment where we all went around the table and said something that we're thankful for. And I, being fully wrapped up in my emotions and also some liquor, said, I think that's a great idea. If no one else wants to, I'd love to go first. And offering to go first was my first mistake. My next mistake was what I said, because I stood up and I said, I'm really thankful that I still have all of you guys in my life. You know, I'm glad we still hang out as much as we do. I'm glad we still talk as much as we do, because you guys are really my only friends. So I just appreciate you having you in my life in the capacity that I do. And, you know, I'm really just thankful for all of you. So now the reason that my mistake was not only saying all of that, but saying it first, is because every single person that went after me, which I'll remind you was all of them, started what they're thankful for by saying, well, I have other friends besides you guys, but I still really love all of you. Every single person at this table, 13 people in a row, all started with, well, I'm not that fucking loser. Other people talk too. You guys are pretty cool by me. And it just like, it wasn't a fucking competition. Like we're not keeping track of how many people outside of this household will talk to you, you know? Like, now I like to think that my friends that were there saw the error of their ways, because the following year for Friendsgiving, that is not how we expressed our gratitude. Instead, we took pens and little sheets of paper and we all wrote down what we were thankful for. And then we put the pieces of paper in a jar, shook it up, and we passed the jar around, and everyone took turns taking out a piece of paper, reading it out loud, and we had to guess who had written that. I'm happy to tell you guys that I saved my piece of paper. And if you'll allow me to, I'd like to read it to you tonight.
Of course.
I made a list. Indoor plumbing, the moon, rubies, love in its many forms, tequila, continuity, 2 Chainz. Did I mention tequila? So that is the things that I'm thankful for this year as well. Thank you for having me. Have a great night, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, everyone, let's give it up for Frankie, who now has other friends. Listen, having 12 friends, that's like a good amount of friends. I have
some of them were significant others, I'll say that.
Okay. So but still, having like 12 people in your circle is like pretty good, because I think now,
thank you.
I think most of my friends are like people I found in random meme groups, and that's like still 5, you know?
Those are all my new friends.
What'd you say?
Those are all my new friends.
Okay, cool. Yeah, get you some meme friends, and then like you pass them during Thanksgiving. You're like, oh, here's a meme of like a girl doing a Christian version of wet ass pussy, you know.
Pilgrims be like.
Pilgrims, yeah, exactly. No, thank you so much, Frankie. Also, you do have a lovely sweater. Love that we got to see some tales from inside your closet.
Thank you. I love that I got to show it off because I'm not fucking going places. So
yeah, exactly. It's like someone needs to see my sweater. If anyone wants to see my sweater,
I wouldn't normally wear red
like
with it though. I'm noticing my undershirt is red. I wouldn't make that choice.
Oh, it's okay. I was kind of into it. My sweater says nowhere or now here. Who knows? It's like who knows? It could be anything.
I like that, the ambiguity of it all.
The gay bar in New York.
Yeah, ambiguity. That is the name of the game this year. Our next performer usually hosts the show 3 out of 4 weeks of the month, or 4 out of 5 weeks of the month, depending on the type of month it is. She is so funny. She runs very many shows all over Boston. Please give it up for Angela Sawyer.
Woo! Hi. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be a guest on a show that I host. It's a really good treat. That never happens, so it's cool. I get to just come and tell a story and then be like, whatever. This has been great. Chloe, I love that you've discovered the tagline for the French Scooby-Doo, who's like, "Woo, breakfast." And Frankie, I haven't met you, but amazing story. You're clearly a great friend. You're as good a friend as that sweater is, I got to tell you. It's very obvious. And so it's already pretty great. This is pretty fun. I'm going to tell you about how a time that I was a very ungrateful child when I was growing up, and I think I have a story that illustrates that, but also it also illustrates how I'm not a fan of nature, like trees, outdoors. I'm an indoor sports kind of person, and I have the gut to prove it. And how I learned that nature is not grateful that we're here. I think when you're when you're a child, maybe especially if you're a girl, but definitely just if you're a child in general, you think that the world is just made for people, and then you get a little older and you find out that's not true. What happened to me is that I grew up in the suburbs, and then when I was about 8, we moved to a rural area. We moved to a little dirt right off the highway that went to the nuclear power plant. And that is, we did that because it's very cheap there. Like whenever you have a nuclear power plant, you got a highway that goes to it and it doesn't go anywhere else. That's just the rules in America. And around the nuclear power plant, there's always this land that no one could buy because even in America, we think that some things are too dangerous. But then there's a big strip of land around that where people are like, well, if you're broke enough, we'll let you die. And, so that land is really cheap. And my parents were like, that's where we should live. So we went to live in this little dirt place where grass did not grow. And as a result, everyone in our neighborhood just either put rocks in their front yards or they just let it be dirt with natural rocks sticking out of it. Maybe some hay. And one family tried to buck the nature and like put in a sod lawn, or like perfectly green lawn, and then would die and then would do it again, and it would die and they would do it again. So it was very strange. It felt like the Dust Bowl, just kind of like leftover spot outside the city. And by the time I had lived there a couple of years, I felt comfortable there. I was like, I could give, there was nobody to give a tour to because 10-year-olds don't give tours of places, but I could have. I was like, I know what happens in this place. I know how to get around. I know how to get the things that I need and like what, where the cool places are and how to get things done. And it was because I had learned how bunnies work. When I was the year before, when I was about 9, my dad was out one day on his big power mower, drinking beer, like the power mower with the cooler, cruising around in no particular direction on the power mower, which is the only reason to have a house in the boonies. And this is sad, but he accidentally came upon a hole with some wild bunnies living in it. And That's just a thing that can happen. That's just how nature works. Sometimes you drive over bunnies. So he picked up a couple that he hadn't driven over or who hadn't run away. Who knows? Maybe they all ran away. He picked up a couple and he brought them into the house, which is very uncharacteristic for both my dad and people who live in rural areas. When animals get hurt, they're just like, whoa, well. So he brought them into the house and he was like, let's save these bunnies. Let's definitely save these bunnies. And I was very surprised. Everybody was surprised, but we're like, okay, we'll get on board. And he was like, you know where to get goat's milk, right? He looked at me and he's like, you know. And I was like, I do. I know where to get goat's milk. And so I did the thing that you do to get goat's milk. I brought it back, and we took one of my doll baby bottles, and he poked a hole in it with a safety pin, put goat's milk in it. He fed the little bunnies, and one of them lived to adulthood. And we put the adult bunny, once it finally grew up, into the hutch that we already had outside our basement. It was kind of like sheltered from the cold and from the heat, and it spent the rest of its life in that hutch trying to kill the other bunny in the hutch. And every several months, my dad would get the thickest piece of wood that he could, and we would every family member would try and trap one bunny so that they couldn't get at each other. And he would take out the wood that they had spent all of their time trying to dig through to get to the other one to kill it. And then he would put in a new piece of wood. So, bunnies aren't as nice as we want. The year before was the year that I first got to that rural area, and I thought that bunnies and all animals were there to, love me particularly. And so when we first moved into that house, one of the first things that happened is I asked for a pet. And my parents were like, no, you're not old enough to have a pet. And they were correct, but I didn't know that. And I was like, come on, I could have, maybe not a dog, maybe just like a cat or something. And they were like, no, you can't have, you're not even a fish. You can't do it. And I was meeting the neighbors and so on. And I found out from the neighbors that a bunch of my neighbors had bunnies as pets because they were living around there. And so I started begging my parents, like, I need a bunny as a pet. I really need a bunny. And when you're a kid, 2 months is many years. So for a couple months, I begged them and begged them. And then one day, my dad took me aside and he was like, hey, tomorrow's your mom's birthday. You should get her a present. And I was like, I'm 7. I don't have money. And he didn't respond. He just walked away. So I was like, what can I do? I was stressed out. I was like freaking out. I was like, how can I get my mom a present? I don't know anyone here. I don't know how anything works. All I really know is that there's like 3 other kids in this neighborhood and they all own bunnies and I don't get one. So I asked the other kids, it was a long time ago, so I just went outside whenever I had a problem to solve. That's what we did. And I went to see the other kids, and I was like, what should I get my mom for her birthday? And the other kids, we'd been talking, and they were like, you want a bunny, don't you? Get a bunny. And I was like, no, it's for my mom. And they were like, get a bunny. And I was like, well, how would I even get one? I can't trap an animal. Like, how would I do that? And they were like, go to the general store. And I was like, what's the general store? And they were like, haven't you seen at the end, like at our little dirt U that was next to the highway, right at one corner of it, there was this like beat up sort of like shack with a porch and didn't have any signs on it or anything. And I had never been there. And they were like, that's the general store. Go there. They'll help you. And I was like, that can't be what they do there. And they were like, no, that's where the bus driver lives. Go there. Just go there. So I did know the bus driver because he took us to school every day. And the bus driver, bus drivers are people who think that like working for the subway and for Ubers and taxis is a little too fancy. They are people who, who are just like, I need a job where I can not talk to anybody and drive around all day, but also no shoes. Do you have one of those? And so my bus driver, who never wore shoes as far as I know, lived there with a bunch of children who were too young. He didn't allow them to interact with the other children. So the only thing that I knew that came out of that place was the bus driver. It was always surrounded by children in diapers, and that was it. And I was like, that can't be a place where you get things. That just isn't how things work. That's most stores, they have bags there and shopping carts and stuff. And my friends were like, no, 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 go there. Don't scare them. Don't be all, we've met you, Angela. Like, don't be weird. Just go there and act like you belong there and ask them to help you. So I was like, okay. So I took off my shoes and I walked down to the general store and I cut my feet all up on the rocks. And I got there and I found out that it was a store. They sold goat's milk, candy necklaces, like the necklaces you eat until you just have a string covered in saliva around your neck, those, and live bunnies. Those were the only objects that they sold at the general store. And I was like, great, I like all three of those things. So I went and I asked the guy, and I, negotiated with a child in diapers to get the guy to come out. And he did, and he was very suspicious of the fact that he was going to have to talk to a child. And I was like, I'd like to get a bunny. How much do they cost? And he looked at me and he said, I'll sell you a bunny for $5. And I was like, $5? That's a huge fortune. How can I ever get that together? So I went home, cut up my feet some more on the rocks, and I went home, bled all over the carpet from my feet, and then started like digging around the house for money. And as luck would have, I didn't have a piggy bank because I wasn't old enough to have one. But as luck would have it, I found a bunch of change in all the various couches in the house, and I managed to find like $6.25 worth of change. And so I put it all in a bag. I put it all in a big Ziploc bag because that was what was in the drawer that I could reach. And I took my shoes back off and walked back to the general store a couple of hours later. And I was like, here's the money I have. Can I have a bunny? And he was like, sure. What are you going to put it in? And I was like, I'm just going to hold it. And he was an adult. And so he knew that was not how bunnies worked. But he was like, I need $6.25. This is my only sale of the day. So he was like, I'll wrap it up in some paper for you. And he gave it to me, and I took it home, and I put the bunny under my bed to keep it for the next morning for my mom. So the next morning, my mom was at work that day. So that night, my mom comes home. It's late. She's not paying attention to anything. She goes to sleep. Next day, she wakes up. It's her birthday. She gets up, goes downstairs, and finds like blood footprints all over the house, little ones. And then she goes upstairs to be like, what did you do? And she found me chasing a bunny around my room, and my room was absolutely covered in bunny shit and like shavings of furniture that the bunny had chewed on all night. And she was like, what is this? And I was like, it's your birthday present. Aren't you excited? Aren't you happy about this? And that's when we learned that I was an ungrateful child. Oh, no. The most important thing, I guess, to take away from this is that now that I'm an adult, I wish that I had the life of that bus driver. It seems so great. But I'm glad that I learned how nature really works. So that's my story for today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, everyone. Let's give it up for Angela. Angela, I would pay so much money to see what you looked like as a young shoeless child.
Oh, it was not cute.
I'm sure it was adorable, just going up to a strange man who was also without shoes and being like, I'll just hold the bunny on my leg. I'll just hold this creature that is known for sprinting long distances upon the slightest,
right.
Slightest.
It was also half my size. Like an adult wild rabbit is bigger than it's like the size of a dog.
Angela, do you remember how long that walk was?
Not long. The walk was not long.
Okay.
Mostly I remember once we figured out what we were going to do, I remember being surprised that we kept the bunny, the first one. And then I remember I don't know how my dad or my mom got like a hutch and got it set up or anything, but I remember that it was my job to feed the bunny, and the bunny hated me permanently for life, tried to kill me every time it saw me forever. And then when we finally got another bunny, they were like, forget humans, now we're in a death match. So mostly I remember bunnies as things that were like in a horror movie when you open a box and you hear like that.
That's amazing. Also, we noticed you have a cat. Does your cat run away from you?
No, my cat likes me a lot and loves it. My cat is named Hercules and just came into my life. So everybody has switched roommates a lot during the pandemic. Everybody who's 4 has all different roommates now. So I have a new roommate who is 19 and I'm 50. And he came with a cat, which means now I own a cat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's pretty good. I like it a lot so far.
Aw, that's great. Yeah, I'm glad the cat is into you and like is not afraid of you and does not hate you. That's great. I'm also glad the cat was not like a surprise for your mom's birthday.
No, now I'm my mom, so now I'm the reverse.
That story is a great example of why you shouldn't ask children to do anything ever.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. Kids they'll just, their feet will start bleeding because
It's like, hey, it's your mom's birthday. Oh, cool. You know that bunny I wanted? Birthday, Mom.
Yeah.
They will travel like Moses in the desert to like get a random thing and then just leave blood all over the house. Best case scenario.
I feel like the bunny was probably mad because you didn't feed it for like a while.
I'm sure I didn't. I'm sure I nearly killed it.
Oh man.
The bunny also probably didn't love being carried home that first.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Rough first impression.
Well, thank you so much, Angela, for that story. Our next performer is also based in the Boston area. She is hilarious. She performs everywhere. She also has a weekly show called The Rehash at 2MB Studios on Twitch. It is every Friday night. Please give it up for Tookie Kavanaugh.
Hi. Oh man. Hi. I'm here. Oh God, I'm here. So sorry. Hi. So good to see everybody. Some faces that I haven't seen in a while. Yeah, I know today's show is about ungratefulness. And oh my God, thank you, Kendra. Yes. Well, don't tell my my fiance about my hair because he likes to refer to it as a spicy meatball. I've been mistaken for Italian by 6 separate Uber drivers. We can do that now without me being. So I know today's show is about being ungrateful, and none of us are grateful for COVID. I think that's safe to say. But I'm reversing it a little bit because I am sort of grateful for the hidden blessings that COVID has given us. And I think that has to be not only the reduction in carbon emissions for some time, shout out to the planet, but also the reduction in street harassment by horny straight men. So I am grateful for that. I'm grateful that I didn't have to endure, not leaving my house. Thank you, lockdown. I didn't have to endure another summer, or as I like to call it, damn, you got a fat ass. So you just gonna walk away? Well, fuck you too, bitch season. It's really nice. Though, I mean, it's not even that it exclusively happens in the summer. I mean, I have been I live in Massachusetts, right? I've been walking around in a snowstorm in a knee-length parka and have gotten catcalled. So I'm just grateful for the fact that there has been a reduction in that. Yeah, like it still happens online to an extent, but not as much and not as egregiously. So I'll tell you the story because we're all, I think we're still a little freshly scarred. I think the scar from the election is a little fresh, just a little fresh. But I think I got a good omen. Good omen. It was an omen. It's an omen, but something in my DMs on Instagram, and I'm not the kind of girl who gets dick pics on Instagram. Not that I want to experience that rite of passage. It hasn't happened yet, but I instead, the Sunday before the election, I got this DM from an account called the Vermont Pie Guy, and when I opened the DM, all it said was, "Have you ever been pied?" And when I checked the account, it was just like several photos and videos of various white women being hit in the face with whipped cream pies, which isn't, but definitely is a category of porn. And I don't know if I want to be that diversity hire. You feel me? Like I don't think that that's what Kamala worked for. Like I don't think I need to do that. Yeah, I'm grateful that I have staved off a lot of nonsense in my DMs. Shout out to the one good thing Facebook has given me is changing my relationship status. As soon as it says engaged in the public little slot, in the public little area of my Facebook profile, not as many no dicks, still no dicks. No, don't send me dicks, but still no dicks. But not as many strangers in my DMs, which is really nice. Patriarchy, thank you, patriarchy, for instilling this notion that women belong to other men, and that's what keeps them away. It's men are other men repellent. It's great. This is what we do. But yeah, I mean, if we take it way back, it's not the first time I've ever gotten bizarre DMs. I will say that. Like, I think it has to have started all the way back in 2002. Kendra, I know you know about this because I mentioned this earlier. My first foray into social media was a website called blackplanet.com, which apparently still exists. And I should go back and delete my profile because that's but on this particular site, and it's a whole social network thing for people of color, because they had blackplanet.com, Mi Gente for Latinos, Asian Avenue, which should be self-explanatory. So what you could do, because they didn't have DMs just yet, you could leave people notes. And I once got a note where someone just took time out of his life to read my profile, and he messaged me in a note, and he says, "You say you like to dance. Question, can you make your ass clap?" Which, thank you. Like, you not only prove that you are literate, but you also are taking an interest in my life, and mostly an interest in what them cheeks do. But I think my favorite note off of blackplanet.com had to have been when somebody wrote me a poem. This dude wrote me a haiku. I promise you, I remember it verbatim. He goes, "What up, Tookie Tookie? I ain't a rookie. I'll eat that." I was 14. But I think I think the height of everything was definitely when I joined Tinder, which I'm sure most of you here have had the misfortune of being on that hell site. And I stopped taking it seriously within a week of my joining, because at one point I was matching with Space Ghost and a ceiling fan and Garfield the cat. This is what I was on. This is what I was doing with my life. But at the time that I was taking it seriously, I got what is by far my most favorite DM. The DM on Tinder that I'm most grateful for in my entire life. This dude hit me up, and again, it was at the time that I was taking it seriously. So he goes, "Oh, you're so lovely. You're so lovely. What's your favorite kind of flower?" And I gave him a sincere response, and I was like, "Bird of paradise is my favorite flower." And he messaged back, "All right, cool, just checking. Want to know what kind of flowers to put on your casket after I murder that pussy," which is romantic because the rest of me is alive, right? Like, it's just my pussy that's dead. So that's romantic. But I will tell you, Kendra, I'm so sorry. You should. I'm embarrassing the both of us. But I will say, I think I have alienated the audience here too long, and I will leave the audience with 3 of my favorite cat calls, pieces of street harassment, high poetry, high prose, art that I have received from men at various points in my life, just trying to walk down the street and mind my business. The first one being, girl, you got a terrorist booty. Look like 2 bombs in the back of your pants, right? I I also was at a party in college once, and a white man approached me and came up to me and said, "Hey, girl, you ever been with a white boy before? I want to gentrify you." Which, thoughtful. Yes. Oh, the women in the chat are aghast, and this was college. This was 2009. Everybody, get on board. Go back about 11 years, and I think the greatest chef's kiss, greatest piece of high prose, high art that a man had ever said to me, that I am most grateful for ever receiving as a compliment on the street, is "How you doing, girl? You need some Shrek with that donkey." So,
Oh, no.
so I'm grateful, even though COVID sucks, I'm grateful that I don't have to leave my house and hear any of that for the foreseeable future. I mean, do, but don't give us the vaccine. I think that's enough for me, though. Thank you.
All right, everyone, let's give it up for Tookie. Those were some just phenomenal catcalls. Just gentrify this pussy. Like,
Ugh.
someone try. If someone went up to me and said that, I would be like, no, there's going to be a shooting in this pussy so that prices stay down. Right? The things that people say just.
I mean, in some cases, you want to just lower the pum pum value, like kind of tweak the pH a little bit so it's not as. I'm divulging too much. I'm sorry.
Like, let's raise the pH so that no one wants to gentrify it. This pussy is, there's too much crime and yeast in this pussy for it to be
Yes. What can I say? I have inspired some art by strange men.
Yeah, you really have. People who hit on me are just like very upfront, like, I want to fuck you, and I'm like, wow, thanks for that information. I will take that on the way to the grocery store. That poetry that you gave me, you know. But you inspire some true imagery, just like fantastic.
You want to know the worst part? It definitely ruined Shrek for me, especially Shrek the musical. Broadway musical, which is available to watch on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not just the fact that the thought of my needing some Shrek with that donkey is disturbing enough. It's the fact that the guy who plays Donkey on the Shrek Broadway musical went to Juilliard. That man went to Juilliard to get on stage and wear some hoops. Oh, I feel mad about it.
Well, you know how the economy is doing. You know, it's great. Sometimes you go to a school renowned for music and art, and you wind up playing a donkey. You know, like that person's probably making more than I do.
Well, he's out of work right now, right? Because Broadway's.
Yeah, actually, no, he's not working right now. Never mind. That was. I'm grateful that I am in an industry that's still going. So on that note, we have our final performer of the night. I'm very excited to introduce him to everyone. He has opened for so many people. I don't even know all of their names, but he's open for them. They're all famous and really good. Trust that. He'll talk about it, I'm sure. Please welcome Shafi Hussein.
Thank you, Kendra. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I really appreciate. It's so good seeing all the Boston comics doing so well. I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you. I know Kendra, you're just talking about the economy. I know the economy is bad, like especially when you talk about like the trade wars. You know, people talk about the trade wars all the time, and it's not really a war, right? It's not. You're just raising prices on imported goods. I have a friend who's from Iraq. If I were like, hey, how's the war? He's never like, which one, the drone strikes or the raising avocado prices? Which one are you talking about? Because I couldn't tell. The drones are fine, but the raising price in guacamole, I can't stand them. But Angela was talking about bunny. I actually had a pet bunny, which is insane. Like, I'm very grateful for the bunny, or I used to be at least. But like I lived in a neighborhood in Bangladesh where we had a lot of wild cats, and I think that's the first time I actually felt pain. So this kind of ties into this theme kind of being thankful, because I had my first pet, it died, I was crying. My dad sees me crying, he comes over and is like, hey, last week your grandma had passed and you didn't even cry this much. And I was like, yeah, I didn't spend all my savings buying grandma. Okay. And grandma wasn't fluffy. We didn't hang like that. I don't know, like my first Thanksgiving in the US when I first moved, I was a token brown guy from South Asia, and I was invited to my girlfriend at the time's house. And, like their white family, very kind, very nice. And they invited me over, and it was very nice. I was hanging out, and they asked me to say, how are you in Bangla? And I panicked. I don't know why. I was just like, I didn't know what to say. And I said, it's La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, which doesn't mean how are you in Bangla at all. It means there's no God but Allah in Arabic. And I feel like if they invite anyone over that are Middle Eastern, and they're like, oh, I learned this thing, and they just say this, I just love to imagine that. They're not in my life right now, but that was my only Thanksgiving, I think, that I had in the last 8 years. But I'm very thankful and grateful that the election is over. That's kind of nice, right? I'm sure everyone is. I can't obviously vote because I'm on a work visa, which means I cannot be in this country if I don't have a job and pay taxes. America looks at me like I am America's sugar daddy. America is like, I can let you inside me if you can't pay for stuff. That's my relationship with I can't vote, but I can buy a boat, Being in the election is like me watching a YouTube video that has its comment section disabled only for me. This is what this feels like. But like the story I'm gonna tell is the day I thought I was gonna die in a mall. So it's dramatic. I know there's a lot that goes into it. I was opening, like Kendra said, I'm gonna bring it up. So here it is. I was opening for Ryan Hamilton in a mall, and Albany Mall. Okay, so it's not the best of places. It's known for shootings. And my best friend who moved from Bangladesh was supposed to be here. And he was my best friend when I was young. He's still my best friend. But this best friend, we have a story that goes back to like middle school. I gave him like the math class. I remember we're sitting and he sat behind me. He's like, "Can you give me a pencil?" And I was like, "Yeah, here it is." I lent him a pencil, and then I went out. And then I don't know if you guys do this in the U.S., but I came back. I didn't know what was going on. I sat and he had the pencil held on the desk. It was a prank. The pencil prank. You sit on it and I cry. He laughs. Everyone laughs around you. It's a prank. He thought it's a prank, but the UN considers it a crimes against humanity now. For it to be a prank. It's a practical joke, which you wouldn't even try in Guantanamo, right? So he did that, and like that affected me. That prank affected me because like now, if anyone like my girlfriend, for example, asks me to borrow my car, I'm like, are you gonna run me over with it? Because I don't know what happened. Okay, I've been there trying to do good things. My dad's like, can you send me some money? I'm like, are you gonna hire an assassin? I don't know what's gonna happen. Guard up. So he's supposed to come watch me perform. So I was super excited. Ryan is one of my favorite comics. So it's like if you're getting to serial killing and you get to work with Ted Bundy, it's a big difference. So I go hang out. Hang in the bar. We have 5 shows all sold out. Last show, right? Saturday night. It's like 11 p.m. We're almost about to wrap up. Everything is going great, and I hear shooting in the mall, inside the mall. I'm like, oh my God, this is America. I'm gonna die. You know what I mean?
Oh God.
This is very exciting. And it's on the news. You can validate this story, okay? This has been on Albany 9 News. I don't know if you guys follow the news in Albany. It's big where I come from. It's pretty big. So I hear mall shooting. I'm like, okay, this is how I go. I text my mom, say, I love you. And I'm not, the sad part is that if I died, no one's gonna even talk about me because Ryan is gonna be the story. It's like, oh, Ryan Hamilton just out of Happy Face from Netflix just died. And there was an opener no one knows about. He also died. But let's move on to Ryan. He's gonna be missed. So I'm like panicking. The manager comes out to me and he's like, "Hey, you gotta stop the show. We gotta evacuate the hall. I think there's something going on. There's like 46 cops outside. Like we're panicking." And like she tells me that I have to go stop Ryan Hamilton from performing. Do you understand? I have never stopped a white guy from speaking before. You know, it's not like I trained on that. You know, so I have no practice on this. So I'm walking towards him slowly, and you know, I can't obviously run. It doesn't look good if I just run to the stage. Okay. So I'm walking slowly, and I'm thinking that this would be like if I was a karaoke singer and I was snatching the mic from Beyonce. Yeah. And that's what I'm about to do. So I go up and I do this to Ryan, and he's like, "What does this even mean?" He doesn't know. And I'm like reminiscing all the bad shows I had, and I was like, "Oh my God, my life!" Like, you know, I was like mad about all the other shows. This is probably the worst show because like the week before I had done like a charity show for a dog rescue, and I was heckled by the dogs. You know what I mean? I mean, like if I was like raising money for like cancer patient, and they're like boo, and they're like next to the stage, like boo, get off the stage. That was what the dogs were doing. I was like, this is bad. So I was like walking and trying to be grateful for all the other shows I had because I'm gonna die today. So I go up and I'm like, "Ryan, we need to stop the show because there's a shooting." And he's like happy and bubbly. He's like, and he just went from like smiling to like very paranoid. It's the reverse of like expecting a baby but then having a miscarriage. I think that's dark, but that's what he went through. That was the journey he went through. And then like he tells everyone, "Hey, be patient, don't worry, we're gonna evacuate from the left." And people are just like, this is pre-COVID, so people are just don't care about it. They're just like trying to take selfies with Ryan. I'm like, why are you taking selfies with people that die? People, we could be dying. My best friend who was there, he comes up and he's like, "Hey, you were not funny, so if you die, it's fine." No, he didn't say that. But we're dramatic if he did say that. So we're Ryan and I are standing, trying to figure out what's going on. We go on Twitter to see if anyone has any news. And Ryan like looks at the manager and he's like, "We're still getting paid, right?" And that's when I realized that we're comics. We don't care what's going on. We just want to get paid. We ordered the most expensive salmon, but salmon is the thing, right? Even if you're a vegan and you get free salmon, you're gonna try it. You know what I mean? Salmon is that good; it can convert you. So we're sitting down. Salmon is here, and then we learn after we stayed there for like hour and a half. Everyone has left. Ryan and I and the manager and some staff. So we learned that there was two 13-year-olds that were in the trampoline park in Albany Mall, got in a huge fight and called backups. 13-year-olds called backups. They had 200 people from each gang come there to support them. I don't even have 200 Twitter followers. You know what I mean? Like, what is happening? And yeah, we made it out live, and I'm thankful for that. I guess that's the story I had for you guys. I hope it's okay, but thank you for having me.
Thank you. Oh my God, I didn't know Albany rolled that deep. When I did. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of places with the gangs I just don't know about. But when I think of, man, that's like, I didn't know there were like gang chapters up in Albany.
October 9th, 2019. I think if you Google it, it should pop up.
Okay. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Imagine like getting in a fight at a trampoline park and being like, "I need to bring out my paramilitary troops."
Yeah, that's what happened. They're equipped. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everyone watching. This has been a really awesome show. Thanks for being here. Let's give it up for all the performers: Chloe, Frankie, Angela, Tookie, and Shafi. They follow them on Twitter, follow them on various social media. And if you are interested, if you want to give us a little something, you could tip the Comedy Studio and they will spread that wealth to us. And I think that is like down there somewhere. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Come back next week. Angela Sawyer will be hosting, and it'll be all new comics.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah.
Ooh, pizza's here.